This episode is brought to you by Battleborn Batteries, the best name in the RV and marine industry. These lithium batteries are designed and assembled in the USA, backed by a 10-year warranty. The best solution for your battery anxiety, so go check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.
Whether your adventure is on the road, on the water, or off the grid, Battleborn batteries keep you out there longer.
You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Hey everyone, Chris Dieter from H3R Performance joins us today to talk about their line of fire extinguishers, Halgaurd and Max Out. He also shares a lot of knowledge of extinguishers, such as the different types, ratings, maintenance, the differences in discharge time, and construction. Chris also talks about the history of H3R Performance, of how it went from focusing on recycling of halon just for aviation purposes to branching out and creating a quality extinguisher for the general public and automotive enthusiasts. So let's get this episode started.
Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and a little bit about H3R Performance?
Sure. Yeah. So great to be here, guys. I appreciate the opportunity. So I'm from Northern California. Grew up here, loving the outdoors and travel. Have some experience with RVs. Had a great trip in my young adulthood in a very nice, luxurious RV, and I can see the appeal of our RVs definitely. But my love of travel actually took me overseas in my career. So I went to Japan. Worked for a major automotive manufacturer there. Actually took me to Europe after that. And one of the things that I brought back with me was the realization that in those countries, in many countries, fire extinguishers are required in vehicles. And that's not the case here in the US, although I think it is required for RVs. But in any event, ironically, I ended up working for the H3R group, which is involved in fire protection. A little bit about those companies. Again, it's three companies. The first company, H3R Clean Agents, is involved in the recycling of clean agents, particularly halon, which is a clean agent that puts out the fire and doesn't make a mess. And the company recycles it because it can't be manufactured. Actually, it hasn't been since 1994 because it hurts the ozone layer. Okay, so the responsible thing to do is to recycle it, which that company does. We then sell it to the aviation market because it's a required product. We sell it to the aviation market through H3R Aviation. Back in 2005, we had the realization that, hey, this product is good stuff. Let's sell something similar to the automotive aftermarket. And that's how H3R Performance was born. We take a similar product to what's sold to aviation and we offer it to the automotive aftermarket.
Will there ever become a time that you won't be able to recycle it anymore? It seems like a strange problem to have, that you're not allowed to produce more of it, yet it's required in aviation.
It's a really good question. And people have been expecting, looking to the demise of halon since 1994, and it hasn't happened. There are alternatives that have been developed, and in fact, because eventually, yes, halon will go away. So what we offer to the automotive market is a halon alternative called Halotron, and it works in the similar way to halon, and basically it puts out the fire and doesn't leave a mess. So we aren't using halon in the product that we offer to the automotive market, but it's similar in how it works.
It's an odd thing that you mentioned that overseas everybody carries a fire extinguisher, but here it's not required. You would think that would be required here. I know when I first started driving, I had an old 1971 Datsun Z. I don't know if anybody remembers those vehicles, but I carried a fire extinguisher with me, maybe because the car was older and I just felt like it was dangerous. But it's something that I just thought of, that I never really thought to carry on with my future vehicles after that, other than my RV. Now I, of course, have the fire extinguisher, but I wonder why that is. Why is it overseas a mandatory thing. And here in the United States, we don't think it's really a big deal. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a good question, because I can tell you that a lot of people do purchase our fire extinguishers for their vehicle. It's a good question. I really don't know why it's not required. It is required, for commercial vehicles, trucks, etc., are required to have fire extinguishers. But yeah, for your own personal vehicle, much like you're not required to have one in your home, you're not required to have one in your vehicle.
See, I didn't know that about the home. I thought it was a requirement but I guess who would come in and inspect? You're right. Just businesses, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. Businesses are required to have them. You've all seen fires, cars aflame by the side of the road, as I have. And they're actually surprisingly more common than I actually even thought when I researched this a little bit. There's something called the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, and they've done a study where they've shown that I guess the most recent data is from 2018, but there are 500 car fires reported every day on the highway, and that works out to about, one every 3 minutes, or 180,000 a year. So there are a lot of fires on the highways. It's definitely good to have a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I actually bought a second one for my RV because I didn't think one was enough for the size of the vehicle. Like it comes with one up front at our entrance door, but we also bought a second one for our bedroom. We thought it was strange that we didn't have one in the bedroom as well. I guess it was just a requirement that it had one. So that's what they put in here. But we thought it'd be a good idea to have one in our bedroom as well, in case something would happen overnight.
Yeah, you're right. The requirement is one, and it should be mounted. Well, when I say the requirement, so it varies by state, I think, to some extent. But the National, again, Fire Protection Association code, I think it's 1192 for RVs. That code requires one to be mounted within 2 feet, 24 inches of the main entry and exit of the vehicle. But yeah, that's the minimum. And it makes sense to have another one. It makes sense to have one within easy reach of the driver. If you've got a kitchen in your RV, anytime you've got an open flame, that's something to be aware of. And yeah, having it, when you're sleeping, having it in easy reach makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think we've touched on this a little bit so far, but in an RV, and I see that picture of that RV behind you, RV owners really do need to be vigilant in fire protection, because all the ones I've seen on fire have burned like super quick. So if you don't have a fire extinguisher handy at the moment that fire starts, that's probably the last time you're going to see your RV.
Yeah, it's such a good point. When you do a search online for images of RV fires, there are just dozens and dozens of them, and they're pretty horrific. And an RV is an automobile often, or it's towed by one. So fires do happen, and they happen for even new vehicles have fires. You get in an accident, crumple zones are great, and cars are much more safe than they used to be. But if you're in an accident, you get a damaged battery, fuel lines can crack, and flammable liquids. I was surprised that many, if not most, of the fluids in an automobile are flammable. So you've got the flammable liquid falling on a hot exhaust, and you've got problems.
I'd like to add to that also,
Yeah.
Chris, is that most RVs have all the same liquids, at least the motorized ones, as a vehicle would. Plus, the RV is mostly made out of wood, which is kind of it doesn't go well with fire. Let's just say.
One of the images I came upon talked about how an RV was basically overheated going up a mountain pass, and fire started. So there are lots of reasons, and just like I don't know about you, but one of the other causes of a common cause of a fire is you take a pit stop, you pull over to the side of the road, and you happen to park over some dry grass. I seldom, frankly, I got to be more aware of this, but I seldom pay too much attention to that when I pull over to the side of the road. But, a catalytic converter can get up to 2,000 degrees. And studies have been done that have shown that, as low as 300 degrees for 10 minutes can start a grass fire. And if you increase that to 500 degrees, it takes seconds to start. So, it can really happen before you know it. And, God forbid it happens and you're out of the vehicle, boom, your RV can be gone. So
yeah, quick. What do we need to consider when we're purchasing a fire extinguisher? I mean, because like RVs, they not only have the fluids that you would see in an automobile, but they have propane and, maybe some other flammables that are in I don't know what a Truma on-demand water heater system has in it, but that has some chemistry in it as well that might be flammable. I'm not sure. So
and we're cooking in our RVs too with
yeah. Oh yeah, grease fires and
things like that.
So what should a person consider before purchasing a fire extinguisher?
Well, I think the first thing, and we've covered this a little bit, but you can't go wrong getting an A, B, C rated fire extinguisher. So A is for common combustibles like wood and paper and plastics. B is for flammable liquids. And C just means the extinguisher won't conduct electricity back to the operator. So you're not going to, if it's a live electrical fire, you're not going to get shocked. So the ABC is kind of the standard, and that's what the NFPA code calls for, right? So, and that's essential. That's this fire extinguisher. It's about this size. It's 1A10 BC rated. Weighs about in total about 5 pounds or so. That's your standard, and that's what's required. In addition to that, what we recommend, excuse me, is to have a clean agent fire extinguisher as well, because the clean agent fire extinguisher, although it doesn't have an A rating, it's flammable liquids and it doesn't conduct electricity. It doesn't make a mess either. So you don't want to, ideally, if you do have a fire, you want to put it out, not have a mess to clean up. And by the way, unfortunately, although the dry chemical, which is monoammonium phosphate, is the agent, it's very effective, but it is corrosive as well, especially when it comes into contact with moisture. So ideally, you don't want to have to use that fire extinguisher. If it's on a campfire outside, great. Put out that dry grass with the dry chemical. But if it's inside the vehicle, your first line of defense, in my mind, should be something that's not going to damage everything around it. If you didn't get to the fire soon enough and it's out of hand, then sure, grab the dry chemical and make sure, excuse me, you put it out. You should be covered really with an ABC. Now there are fire extinguishers for greases and cooking related K-rated fire extinguishers. We actually don't offer those, but they are out there and they're pretty common in restaurants. But I think the reason that the standard calls for an ABC is that's really going to cover you 90% of the time. I think if you've got an ABC fire extinguisher and more than one of them, or one of them plus something like a clean agent, I think you'll be good to go. In terms of size, again, the most common is the 2.5 pound size. You can get larger units. You can even get up to a 20 pound dry chemical extinguisher. That's pretty darn big and heavy. And that's 20 pounds of agent, by the way. So the gross weight is going to be, 30 plus pounds. In any event, the standard size is 2.5 pounds. 2.5 to 5 pounds is a good size to get. That's what we find that most people buy.
And then you want to find the UL stamp on the fire extinguisher somewhere as well, right?
Yeah, that's something that's hard to overemphasize, because UL is, it's a standard. It's very well known for a wide variety of products. For fire protection, there are UL standards for the different types of agents, and they put the extinguishers through very rigorous tests, and it's a rigorous process, a rigorous test, quite expensive for the manufacturer as well. But when you come out of that testing, you know you're going to have a fire extinguisher that's high quality and that's, you know, has the very unlikely that it's going to fail. It's going to work when you need it to work. There are fire extinguishers on the market that are not UL listed, which is actually not allowed in many states. I know in California, a fire extinguisher must be UL listed in order to be even offered for sale. But the reason behind that is they're not, they may have been tested to some standard, possibly, maybe in another country, but you can't, you know, if what you're told you need is an A, B, C rated fire extinguisher, what that means is that it's a UL listed A, B, C, and frankly, that's what it is. It's a UL listed A, B, C fire extinguisher. Someone might say that this product is good on an A fire, but when they do that, they're also supposed to say, well, what's the rating? So is it 1A, is it 2A, is it, you know, 3A? Unless you're testing to the same standard, any number that's given to that rating doesn't make, you know, is useless because it, you know, it's not the same standard. Another thing is that some of these non-UL listed fire extinguishers are, you don't know what kind of quality you're getting. For example, there are discharge times that are mandated. There are discharge ranges. So for example, a UL listed fire extinguisher says it has to shoot at least 8 feet, for example. So you need to stand back 8 feet from the fire. Well, why is that important? Well, when you're fighting a fire, I know that I want to be as far away as I can from that. And there are fire extinguishers out there that aren't UL listed that require you to be as close as 2 feet to the fire.
Wow.
And then on top of that, so the discharge range is not very, very long. You got to be 2 feet from the fire. And then on top of that, they have discharge times. In other words, how long it takes from when you squeeze the trigger or deploy the extinguisher, however you do that. You've got to be, how long does it last? So you'd think longer is better. So one of them that I'm aware of says this lasts for 50 seconds, 5 times longer than the typical fire extinguisher. That's great unless you think about it and you realize, so I've got to be standing next to the fire for 50 seconds, or I could use this other extinguisher and stand 8 feet back and put out the fire in 8 seconds. You know, it all comes down to, you know, the discharge rate, how much extinguishing agent is coming out over, you know, what period of time. And these are all details that are, you know, codified in these tests. And if it's not been tested to a UL, then you just don't know what you're getting.
But before we get into your particular fire extinguishers, I guess one thing we should talk about is how to properly put out a fire using a fire extinguisher. Are you supposed to hold that fire extinguisher open until all that has discharged?
Yeah, that's another good question. So what the extinguisher label or nameplate says, right, is it has, I don't know if you can see this or not, but it has instructions on how to use the extinguisher. Some extinguishers that aren't UL listed might not even have this, but it's right there on the extinguisher. It's good to familiarize yourself before you need it, but if you don't, it is right here on the nameplate, and it says, you can see videos online about this as well, but you're supposed to remember the acronym PASS, okay? So what you do is you stand back from the fire 8 feet and you pull the pin, all right? What we like to say and what our extinguishers say is actually pull and twist. We found that because you need to break this tamper seal.
Oh, yeah.
Plastic, it's fairly easy to do, especially when you have adrenaline pumping, but it's easiest if you actually twist it and pull, because there's not, you know, resistance here if you just try to pull. So first you stand 8 feet back, you pull this, and then you aim it at the base of the fire, basically sweep it from side to side. Let me see if I can, well, actually before you do that, you know, you got to squeeze the lever, right? That's the first S. So squeeze the lever and spray it from side to side. Ideally, you're not going to start and stop.
Okay.
Practically speaking, I know that when I've done it, it's almost impossible not to do that, because you got to spray it. You think it's out. No, it's not quite out. You do it again. Ideally, no, to answer your question. You're supposed to just spray until it's gone. But stopping once or twice, I think, is pretty common.
I have a silly question for you, possibly, because I've never actually fired a fire extinguisher before. Is there a kick to it? Does it push you back? Does it have a lot of power behind it? So when the first time you go to fire one, will it catch you off guard, or is it kind of benign?
It's funny, because the first time you do discharge a fire, I wouldn't say there's a lot of kick, but it is, when it comes out, it makes a hissing sound, and it's pretty sudden, and
okay.
It is, it is good if you ever have the chance to practice with it. I know that most companies, OSHA requires companies, I think, sometimes to have tests for their employees. And that's a good idea, just to know how to use a fire extinguisher. If you're going to do it with a dry chemical, which again is the most common type, then you need to be prepared for the mess it's going to make.
So don't be doing this inside.
Yeah, don't be doing this inside.
Okay.
I got to relate a quick story. When I was in Japan, they have these very small kitchens, but they also have fire extinguishers that are different than ours. Ours, you pull the pin and then you have to squeeze the trigger. Over there, and again, these aren't UL listed, by the way, they have a pull pin, a safety pin like this, that is on the top of the extinguisher, and it's not secured by a tie. So I went down to reach, to get this fire extinguisher off the ground just to check it out. The pull pin came out, because that's what it's designed to do, and they're designed to discharge completely. There's no way to stop it.
Oh,
so
wow.
I had a 2.5 pound extinguisher discharge in this small Japanese kitchen, and it took couple of hours to figure out. Nothing against Japanese fire extinguishers, but they're not tested to the same standard in our country. That's not how you expect a fire extinguisher to act. So,
yep.
I was going to ask you, since you had that in your hand, that your fire extinguisher there, it looks different than other fire extinguishers that I've seen for for residential use. In fact, like, as far as it looks like it's made out of all metal, no plastic or anything like that, unless if it is plastic painted to look like metal. I'm not sure. But can you talk a little bit about the construction of it, and is it all metal?
Indeed, it's mostly metal for key components. So we have, again, we have the Clean Agent Halgaurd brand, and we have the Max Out dry chemical. They share the same construction, all metal valves, siphon tube, cylinders. In fact, this one's empty. Don't do this at home, right? This is
I didn't even know, for people listening, that he is unscrewing the top off. I didn't even know that was a possibility.
Yeah, so this is what happens when a fire service company, when you go in every 6 years to get your extinguisher serviced, this is what they do. They discharge the agent, which is under pressure in the bottle, of course, check the interior, make sure there's no corrosion. But anyway, yeah, this is what ours look like. Metal siphon tube. This is like a straw, right, where the agent comes out. It's metal, some cheaper, it's not necessarily bad, but some cheaper or disposable fire extinguishers have plastic siphon tubes, which can crack over time, become brittle. There are, aluminum discharge nozzle. We've got the aluminum valve, the handle. So these can all be plastic in some fire extinguishers. And again, that's not necessarily a terrible thing if it's a disposable fire extinguisher. But if you want something that's going to last, look for a fire extinguisher that's, in addition to being UL listed, it's got all metal construction. I mean, yes, this gauge is plastic. Pretty much everything else is metal.
So Chris, is that refillable? Like, if I would use it once, I could do what you're doing. Well, maybe I couldn't do it, but you could take it to somebody, or somebody could recharge that extinguisher and use it again?
Absolutely. So our extinguishers are rechargeable, and there are others on the market that are rechargeable. Some are the cheaper extinguishers are usually not rechargeable. They're disposable. And the code calls for them to be taken out of service after 12 years and disposed of. Ours, I've got extinguishers that are 20 years old. They, as long as it's properly maintained, and I'll get into that, but they can last almost indefinitely. Shall I cover a little bit of the inspection and maintenance requirements?
Sure. Definitely, yeah. I'd never look at my fire extinguisher, so I'm pretty interested in this part myself.
Yeah, so again, if it's a disposable fire extinguisher, you need to make sure that it's the maintenance is fairly basic for any type of fire extinguisher. Check it every month, at least as a minimum. And by the way, I should say that fire extinguishers in the U.S. are governed by, basically the fire codes follow NFPA 10. Again, National Fire Protection Association Code 10 is for fire extinguishers. And a UL listed fire extinguisher will have, here are the inspection and maintenance instructions right on the label. It's basically an excerpt from NFPA 10, and you can actually go on, if you're interested, you could go online to nfpa.org free of charge, actually view detailed information about that code online. I sound like an ad for NFPA, but it's it is a very nice resource. You can also purchase the standard if you desire, but they make it available free of charge. You can't download it or even do a search. But anyway, it's also on the label here. What it says is that basically every month at a minimum, you need to check it, make sure it's not obstructed, right? If it's 2 feet from your door and you've got something in front of it where it's not visible, then that's an issue. So that's once a month. Then you need to, it's also pick it up, make sure it's not damaged. So you look at it, it's fine. These things can get kicked, knocked around a little bit. Hopefully you have it mounted, right? Some people, actually in the past, I've been one of these people, but if you have it in your vehicle and it's not mounted, it can roll around in your trunk and get damaged. But hopefully you've got it mounted. Still, you should take it out of the mount, check it for any damage, check the gauge to make sure that it's charged, right? It should read at about 12 o'clock in the middle of the green zone at 70 degrees. So that's important. This one clearly is not charged because it's got a hole in the bottom. But anyway, so that's basically it. Making sure that it's charged and not damaged. And that's just a quick inspection every month. I should say that if you're going to, and I know this happens, right, and some states get very hot in the summer inside a vehicle. If you're in a state where it gets very hot, if it's exposed to greater than 120 degrees regularly, Fahrenheit, then you should get it checked more often than I'm going to mention in just a moment here.
Is that similar if it's in like freezing temperatures for a long time as well?
I would say yes, but these things are designed, the dry chemical ones go down to negative 65 Fahrenheit. So you can use it in very cold weather and store it in very cold weather without too much worry. Okay. When it starts getting above 120 degrees Fahrenheit consistently, then that's probably more likely. Yeah, so once a month, check it. Once a year, do the same monthly check on the 12 month, and then also weigh the extinguisher. And why do I need to weigh the extinguisher, you might ask, when it's got a pressure gauge? Well, they can fail, right? Just in case. It's important to weigh the extinguisher. Also, at that 1 year mark, when you weigh the extinguisher, I should have mentioned, when you put the fire extinguisher into service for the first time, you're supposed to weigh the extinguisher and make a note of how much it weighs. You can put that on a tag on the fire extinguisher that normally comes with the extinguisher, or you can just make a note of it, put it on a spreadsheet. It can be digital, paper, whatever, but just have that figure so that when you weigh it again at the end of the year and compare it, you can check it. And on the label, it will say if this extinguisher, even if it reads in the green, frankly, if this has dropped X ounces, since it was weighed, you need to have it checked. It's uncommon, but that's what you're supposed to do, just to be safe. You want this thing to be available when you need it and have it work. So check it monthly, weigh it annually, and then at 6 years, that's when, and this is true for any rechargeable fire extinguisher, you need to take it into a fire service company. There are many in your area, wherever you live. Take it into them, have them check it. And again, what they do is they do the 6-year maintenance per the component maintenance manual that comes with the extinguisher, and they remove the agent, check everything, and recharge it, and you're good to go. Final thing that I'll say is that the second 6-year maintenance, so at 12 years from the date that you first got it, it needs to, they pressure test the cylinder. They want to make sure that, you know, if it's in a corrosive environment or they can get rusty and degrade, and they want to make sure that the cylinder is good to go. That's a DOT requirement. So that's basically it. Again, getting back to the point about if you expose your extinguisher to greater than 120 degrees Fahrenheit regularly, that 6-year maintenance where they take it apart and check it, that should be done more often. And then the recommendation is annually.
Kenny, did you know about weighing it?
No, I've never heard that before, but it makes sense that you weigh it first when you first get it so that you know what it weighs. And then later on, again, like Chris is saying, in case the gauge is faulty,
Yeah.
maybe it's stuck on that green. But yeah, no, I've never heard that before. That's a good tip. So when you talk about the temperature, I guess it would be a good idea then for, say, people are using these in their RVs or maybe a car or a show car or something like that, that maybe they should be removing the extinguishers if they're putting them in storage or anything like that. Maybe it's a car that they don't take out often and they live in Arizona where it's getting crazy hot. Is it a good idea to pull them out for storage?
Yeah, again, I don't think it's necessary unless you expect it to be subjected to those temperature extremes, particularly, the high end. God, I think here in California, I think Death Valley got up to 130 degrees.
Wow.
So imagine what that would be like in a vehicle.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
So the life expectancy, as long as you're doing all that maintenance, and your extinguishers at H3R seem to be pretty solidly built, they can last long time.
Yeah, like I said, I've had one for 20 years, as long as they continue to pass that inspection. So if you take it at the 6-year intervals, if you take it to a fire service company, they'll tell you if it's okay, right? If there's a problem with it, then you really need to replace it. But yeah, it will last many years. And yeah, in fact, I still get calls today from fire extinguisher manufacturers, one in particular that is long since out of business. So if the parts are no longer made for your fire extinguisher, then you can't maintain it. But if you've got a quality made extinguisher, follow the inspection and maintenance requirements, it'll last a very long time.
I have maybe a possible silly, dumb question again for you, Chris. I'm sorry. But you had talked about the mounting bracket.
Uh-huh.
Does a fire extinguisher need to be vertical or upright when mounted? If somebody's putting this in their car, in their trunk or something like that, could they mount a fire extinguisher sideways? I've never seen them that way, so I'm curious.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
Okay.
I think you're probably not going to want to mount it upside down.
Okay.
But other than that, I don't see that. There's no problem at all mounting it horizontally. In fact, we do see that because it can be, for example, right at the side of your seat between the door and your seat.
Oh yeah.
Some people mount it there. So yeah, that's not a problem at all. In fact, I was going to show you, if I could, a couple of things, a couple of our mounting options.
Sure. Yeah, I was just going to ask if you guys sell the mounting equipment as well.
Yeah, we do indeed. First off, I'll say that any UL listed fire extinguisher is required to come with a mounting bracket. So you don't need to worry about, is it going to come with a bracket or not? Some might come with a pretty minimalistic plastic bracket, and some actually, I should qualify that bracket can be defined as what's essentially it's a wall hook. So if it's something that's going to be mounted on a wall, typically this is with larger extinguishers, can be on a smaller one as well, 2.5 pound, but normally it's on 5-pound and greater extinguishers. But in any event, a wall hook can be considered a bracket. But normally for a consumer fire extinguisher, it'll come with some kind of a bracket that will enable you to mount it in a vehicle. Ours come with the same aviation quality brackets that we sell with our aviation fire extinguishers to go on aircraft. They're all metal brackets. What we've found though, and it's been kind of fun, is that for the automotive market, people love to accessorize their vehicles, personalize it. So we've come up with, this is a popular item, they're billet aluminum brackets, polished, and this one's a brushed aluminum, quick release bracket. So this is for a flat surface. We also have them for roll bars, but in any event, you pull the pin and remove it, and you can use it, deploy it like that. So that's, it's just something a little bit different. And also we have, we actually developed it for the military, for Humvees, but it is what we call our extreme duty bracket. And by the way, I'm talking about the black. It's fiberglass reinforced nylon, so it's a kind of a plastic, but it's very, very sturdy, and it also has a quick release function. So you pull that, and here's your your fire extinguisher. Yeah, as you can see, I have it, mounted to what we call our universal seat mount. So this is a very adjustable platform that we offer so that people they don't have to drill into their vehicle. They can mount this to their seat mount bolts in the front.
I see how that works. Yeah.
So that's, and it comes with a couple of different brackets, so it's highly adjustable. But we have a black version of this, and this just happens to be the brushed version. Yeah, so those are our main. I don't think we have any other brackets. We're looking at some new ones as well, but those are currently our main brackets that we offer with the extinguishers.
So when I purchase, like, let's say I went to your website, and I assume you sell them from your website. I didn't ask you that. Yeah. If I went to your website and ordered a fire extinguisher, would it give me the option of which bracket I wanted with that extinguisher, or is that something you would have to do separately?
First of all, I should point out that we've got some great distributors as well. So if you go to, Summit Racing or JEGS or all of the major automotive parts resellers, most of them carry our products, four-wheel parts. But so you can, go to them and touch and feel. We do offer them though on our website. We since we have more control over how the product is shipped out, we do things like, we might install a bracket before we ship it, just as a little added service. But yeah, you can purchase them from our website, and what you would do is it's going to come with the standard bracket because that's required by UL. But in addition, you can say, hey, I'd like this extreme duty bracket, or I'd like this billet aluminum bracket, and it's fairly self-explanatory online. But we're more than happy to answer questions if people want to send us an email or give us a call, and we can help you make sure you're getting the right extinguisher and right bracket for it.
I could see that billet bracket looking pretty good on a Jeep being towed behind an RV. Is that a big market for you guys, like the Jeepers and off-road vehicles?
It really is. They're very enthusiastic Jeep owners, off-roaders in general, and like to accessorize their vehicle, like things that are tough and that look good. I think I mentioned that we offer 3 colors: the chrome, the black, and the red. And nothing, you can't go wrong with red, but people really like the black and sometimes the chrome. I think in the off-road market, it's black and red are most popular. But yeah, on our website too, sometimes if you're going to get it for a Jeep, a Wrangler, or whether or not you have a roll bar coming into play, and if you have a roll bar, what's the diameter? So we've got some information on our website that helps. We have Jeep JK specific mounts, for example. And we're expanding that to other Jeeps as well. So we want to make it as easy as possible for people to figure out what they need for their vehicle.
And I think you said ideally for an RVer, you would want to have the ABC fire extinguisher because that's what's required. And then also what was the other one called? The clean.
Yeah, the clean agent is Halgaurd.
Okay.
And it's interesting. One way to tell the difference, and these are both the same size, is obviously the nozzle. And it just so happens in the testing process, this is a liquid in the bottle. In order to get it to disperse most effectively, they had this conical shaped nozzle, as opposed to the dry chemical just needs something like this. People like the look of this better, but yeah, that's how you can tell the difference. And again, our recommendation really is you got to have the dry chemical, whether it's ours or somebody else's. It may have come with the vehicle, but get a clean agent, have it close at hand, so that that's your first line of defense because it doesn't make a mess. And the Halgaurd we think is a great choice.
Chris, I don't think that we asked you earlier, but how long has H3R been around? How long have you guys been in business?
Yeah, well, the company was started back in 1995 by a gentleman named Stephen Berg, who sadly passed away a few years ago. His wife, Robin, has a long professional career, and she took the reins, and we've been going strong despite Stephen's passing. So it's 1995.
Okay.
And what is it? Geez, how many years does that make us now? 25 years or so?
Yeah, 25 years. Wow.
Did I do the math correctly?
Yeah.
That's good.
And again, so that was the H3R. It was known as H3R Inc. back then, and then we transitioned we created two new companies in 2005. That was H3R Aviation and H3R Performance. So.
And you said you're a pretty small company, right?
Indeed. We have a great team, but we're just eight people.
What have you guys found as far as marketing that works for you? Have you? Is it Facebook ads? Is it YouTube? Is it Instagram? I don't know. Is it commercials on TV maybe, or is it shows like showing up in person and showing people like a hands-on demonstration?
Good question. It's a little bit of all of those, except for maybe the TV advertising. But I think what's most effective is word of mouth, and frankly, this podcast or YouTube reviews we've found where people can actually see people talking about it and see the product. We've been fortunate enough to have our distributors and dealers do a great job at this. We also have had opportunity to get reviews from YouTube influencers. We are quite active on social media. It's kind of a mix of those. Again, we are small. We've got a pretty lean team, and try to leverage the social media and the reviews as much as we can. So again, appreciate this opportunity.
You might be surprised, though, that I don't think we've ever had anybody say that they use TV commercials. I think everybody that we spoke to in the last 2 years, Sean, have all said it is very similar to what Chris just said. It is a lot of the social media presence. And I don't think we've ever had anybody say that they use TV commercials anymore.
No.
Wow. Yeah. Well, times have changed. Again, I come from an automotive background way back when, and that was much larger budgets, and automobiles clearly are TV advertising is more important. But when you get down to these kind of specialty products, there's nothing better than hearing people talk about their own experience. So that's why we try to do a good job with customer service, and we've got a generous return policy. Fortunately, I think due to the quality of the product, people seem to be happy, and we get very few concerns. Certainly, we get very few returns, particularly almost no warranty returns, which is really nice.
Yeah, that says a lot about your manufacturing. Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that Halitron? Am I saying that right? Halitron?
Yeah, Halitron.
Halitron. Is that expensive?
It is. It's expensive to produce.
I would imagine, that it's expensive.
It's and because of the clean agent properties of it, it's more expensive up front, but you don't have the cleanup, you don't have the damage. So at the end of the day, it's a better option, we feel.
Yeah, the payoff is at the end, right?
Yeah.
If you ever have to use it, you get the payoff at the end.
And you have the peace of mind, excuse me, as well. That's we feel is important. If you know you're protected, then that's worth something as well.
And then you said the inspectors, like in my local community, there's a fire inspection company that can look at that fire extinguisher every 6 years. Are they all familiar with the halotron or, that kind of the different chemicals?
That's a very good question, and I'd say if I were pressed, it's a little bit it's a little bit of a negative compared to the Max Out, because anybody will be able to service our dry chemical extinguishers, and there are fewer that have the capability to service the Halgaurd Halotron fire extinguishers. That being said, we go out of our way to help people find the company nearest to them. And again, we sell all over the US and into Canada. If anybody ever has a problem finding someone that can service the product, we encourage them to contact us, and we try to help them find somebody. But it is not going to be as easy as dry chemical. That is true.
But at least you're willing to help somebody find the place where they can take it to. So that's just as good, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And we try to, there have been rare cases where somebody just wasn't able to find someone near them, and we've worked with them to make them happy with with a new unit. But it's always good to be able to continue to use the same product. That's our goal.
So I would imagine the best place for somebody to go to learn more about the company and all your products that you're selling would be your website. Is that what you recommend everybody to do first?
Yeah, I really do. We've got, an FAQ section. We've got a lot of product information there, as you'd expect. So yeah, I'd say that's a great place to go. We've got, you can do a lot of research online about fire extinguishers. We have a news section on our website where we've kind of compiled all the reviews of our product. So it's kind of nice to have it all in one place. This podcast will go there eventually. And so you can see all the reviews about our product, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Mostly good, though, fortunately. But so it's a great resource. We try to keep it up to date. So highly recommend that you go to our website. I should mention that if those listeners that do end up going to our website and do purchase from us, we'd love that. Be sure to use, we don't spam, just give us your email, subscribe to our email list, and you'll get 15% off.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's right at the top of the homepage.
And then for people that might want to look at one in person, you said that you do work with distributors and that you do have them in stores. Is there an easy way for them to find you in a store in person? Do you have a store locator?
We do indeed. So yes, if you go to our website, Where to Buy is also on our website, and there are brick and mortar places. 4-Wheel Parts again is one with quite a number of retail stores. We sell to wholesale distributors who then sell to smaller shops as well. So we have a Where to Buy section on our website as well. So you can just punch in your zip code and get a list of locations where you can go to see the product.
I've been thinking ever since we started that I don't have a fire extinguisher in my truck, and I'm going to have to get one and put it in there because it doesn't make sense not to have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's
right,
what
Sean.
I like to hear. Remember that just give us your email and we'll 15% off.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah, Sean, I don't have one in my car. I took, we live in our motorhome, and like I said, I bought a second one for the bedroom, but I never thought about for the car. I don't know why. But
and
yeah,
you do
I'm gonna
see
the
a lot
same
of
thing.
car fires on the interstate.
Unfortunately, more often than I would like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It really is a good idea.
So thanks for that
Chris.
tip, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Yeah.
I think that is all of our questions for you today. Is there anything that we might have missed or that you would like to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I think we covered it. Again, the key thing for me is that whether you buy our extinguisher or somebody else's, it's just so important that you get a UL listed extinguisher, something that's quality. If you have the budget, get a clean agent extinguisher in addition to a dry chemical for your RV, and you'll be able to travel in confidence, knowing that you're prepared for an emergency such as a fire. So that's all that we'd like the takeaway to be here from our little talk today.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. This has been very informative. I know I learned probably more today about fire extinguishers than ever before. So I'm sure our listeners will appreciate it.
Well, I sure appreciate the opportunity and the chance to talk about our company and brand. And again, thanks so much for the time.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. A big thanks to Chris for coming on to talk about the importance of fire safety and fire protection. Check out the H3R link in the show notes to see the products that they offer. A special thanks to our sponsor, Battleborn Batteries. Please visit them for the best batteries you can put in your RV. Also, we have a YouTube channel. The videos can be accessed from our website, beyondthewheelpodcast.com. We are even doing some live podcasts on YouTube. To find out when we will be live, follow and like our Facebook page. We post on there when we plan on going live on YouTube. Thanks again, and see you in 2 weeks.
This episode is brought to you by Battleborn Batteries, the best name in the RV and marine industry. These lithium batteries are designed and assembled in the USA, backed by a 10-year warranty. The best solution for your battery anxiety. So go check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.